The Maker's Mark Distilling Company is going to make its Maker's Mark bourbon. It is committed to making it 100% from regenerative farmed grains. Mainly corn. They're a bourbon company, so they got a little bit of wheat in it. Mainly corn, a little bit of wheat. And they plan to start immediately, and they hope to entice other companies to join them. There's actually a company out of Austin, Texas, the Distilling Company. That bourbon is actually really good, and it's made from, it's expensive as hell, though. Guys, $70 a bottle, you're never going to win over the average daily bourbon drinker. It's not going to happen. So I did sample it, though, but at $70 a bottle, that's just too rich for my blood. And I love my bourbon. I don't like it that much. But still is made out of 100% heirloom pre-MAP, Mexican Agriculture Project corn, meaning it has not been genetically modified, and they are committed to it. This is a trend. This is, folks, this should be really exciting to you, because we're all going to get healthier as a result of it. You know what this is? This is Joseph Pierce's version of E.F. Schumacher's Small is Beautiful book. Schumacher was a convert to the Catholic faith, got it very late in life. And when Schumacher, he was brilliant. I want to say that Schumacher won a Nobel. Genius in economics. One of the most sought after authority. You will respect an authority. He was one of the most respected authorities in economics in the world. Schumacher was, of course, when he converted to the faith, the enemy identified him now as a threat, and they stopped respecting him. But he wrote the book called Small is Beautiful. And Schumacher's book was basically a revelation. Big everything was just coming right then and there. Late 1960s, 1968 or so, 1970. And Schumacher saw big everything and instinctively went, bad everything. Big everything equals bad everything. This trend has progressed. One of my dearest dear friends, and one of the best, most prolific executive producers of this show, and you're all executive producers. You hear me refer to him as BKB. BKB and I have had dozens of conversations, and he loves driving this point home because it's a good point. He's right about this. Most of your big companies today that you think, they must be run by the most steely-eyed geniuses, business geniuses that have figured out how to make the widget, and they do it better than anyone else. No, they bought their competition. There's no secret to this. This does not make a better widget. We make better stuff, INC. That's not what they do. They find someone that is making a better widget, and they buy them. They do two things. They put a lot of good people out of work, and they remove the competition. This is what Big does. Big doesn't make anything better. Big makes things worse. But because it has advertising agencies, it convinces you that it's made it better, when in fact it hasn't. Well, this, I think, is what's going to happen, which is why I brought Schumacher up. Remember the story that Joseph Pierce likes to, when he comes on the Mike Church show, he's told a couple of dozen times about his book, which was Small is Still More Beautiful. And in Pierce's book, he tells the story of how in Ireland in the 1980s, if you was a beer drinker, you basically had three choices in beer in Ireland. You had Bass, you had Guinness, and I can't forget the other version of the mass-produced beer. And this had come about as a result of some laws that the Irish Parliament had passed. Well, a group of guys who loved craft ale, they loved small batch beers, locally made beers, set out to get Ireland's Parliament to repeal those statutes. And they were successful. They ultimately got and I can't remember the name of the Irish Parliament. It's a funky name. But they got the Irish Parliament to repeal those regulations. And in 1980 or so, whenever it was, I'm just kind of rounding off now. At the end of the 70s, early 80s, there were the three major manufacturers and a handful of small craft ale because the law was stacked up against them. When the laws were repealed, by 5 years later or so, there were literally hundreds of now what you call, and these were restoration projects, restored. In London, in the UK, they call your local pub is just called a local. So hundreds upon hundreds of the locals, had their ability and their right to brew their own beer now restored. And they did. They were making small batch craft ales. Well, people here in the United States found out about this and went, wait a minute, we're drinking absolute SHBT for beer. Miller, Coors, Anheuser-Busch, the big three. And so in the late 1980s, it ignited a revolution here in the United States. And brew pubs were born. One of the one that's been in existence the longest and most successful is right here in Abita Springs, Louisiana, the Abita Brewing Company. I've been to the tour with a half a dozen people or so. Might even go again this Christmas when the kids are in town if they want to go. We love Abita beer. We still drink Abita beer. Abita Boot is one of the best beers on the market. You can only buy it in Louisiana. But they started as a little T90 building in little tiny Abita Springs, making a beer that they got the water out of the well next to the brew pub, and the well is still there. This is the Kentwood Aquifer that runs underneath southeast Louisiana. And just telling you the story here, and Jim Patton, the guy that started the brewery, went to like 100 people, say, hey, well, I want to do this, and I want you to invest $2,000. And he raised the money, and the rest, as they say, is history. This has been repeated everywhere. There are literally, now you can't go into most cities and swing a dead cat by the tail and not hit a brew pub. Go to Tampa, Florida. There are so many freaking brew pubs in Tampa, Florida. Now they got an app. To keep up with it, you got to have an app on your phone. You go, wait, I don't think I've been to that one. Wait. And there's new ones popping up all the time. The point of the exercise is people reacted to scale. They reacted positively to things going back into scale. And that I'll just go down to the local guy and go get my beer. Yeah, it costs twice as much as Budweiser, so what? It's twice as delicious, and I know who made it, right? This is the same mentality we have been preaching on Free Farm Friday for almost 4 years now. Boy, speaking of Free Farm Friday, wait till you hear this letter that I got from a Free Farm Friday listener that I'm going to share with you. Mike Church Show here on the Crusade Radio Network. If you're watching on YouTube, I want you to subscribe to that button down there. Don't go away. Come on in. If you subscribe, you can go into the YouTube chat. It's free. It don't cost nothing. And here's the bonus. I'll wake you up every morning at 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 on the East Coast. And if you when you subscribe, if you sign up for the live notification, when we go live, then every morning at 6 a.m., we go live. And your phone, it will act like your alarm clock, and it won't be Eddie and the Breitbart breakfast flakes. So sign up, subscribe to the channel. You're striking a blow against out-of-scale media broadcasting titans. And for the independent little guy that loves you and is all about little r republicanism and human flourishing, which you're going to hear a lot more about in the coming year. I knew this was a subject that everyone would many of you guys would appreciate, and that's talking about scale, bringing things back into scale and talking about the brew pubs as an example. There are too many now to list. This is what's going to happen. The Prime Act is going to get passed. The regulations preventing your local cattle rancher, pig rancher, Joel Salatin type from bringing his meat locally to market without getting the stinking USDA involved is going to go the way of the Clintons. There is going to be an explosion. I predict there's going to be an explosion of micro produce, of micro meat, think micro brews, just like an EA, right? You all saw what happened when craft ale, small, and don't you just love, some of it's demonic, but there's a lot of great artwork. You sell beer now through the label, basically. So, a lot of thought and time is put into the artwork here. These guys they're talented. It's always interesting to me that the hipsters with the bones in their nose and tatted from their ears down to their toes get this scale thing. They get owning the means of production. They really do. Now, I don't know that they get it, but they do it. And I think that this is going to get unleashed. This is going to be, there is going to be an explosion of small boutique butcher shops popping up all over the place. The big stores are already, the chains are already springing into action. They're hiring butchers, they're out there, and they know that they're fixing to have competition because competition is going to be a good thing. But I predicted it's going to be like the craft ale, small batch, microbrew explosion. You're going to have farm-to-table restaurants opening up across the amber waves of fuel, where you can go and sit down and you can have a meal and you can say, well, hey, the cow was raised right over there. The brew pub, the brewery's right over there. Our field where the wheat's grown is right back there. The herb garden's over here. It's going to, you listen to the KingDude now. I'm telling you, this is going to happen. So for some of you people, this is an opportunity, I think, a business opportunity, a vocation opportunity. This is going to happen across America. It's going to happen everywhere. Even where there are libtard, pinko, commies in blue states, it's going to happen. Watch. The news is now out. Yeah, Jeff wants to know, raw milk available at your local store? Dude, now, I don't mind the pasteurization. Listeria will kill you. I've had raw milk. I'll drink it again. I'm not going to campaign against it. That's you. If you want to do that, you do that. Yeah, I think absolutely. Maggie and I were talking this morning. We're drinking Capuchin Holy Roast coffee. Get yourself a Capuchin Holy Roast. Hey, we've gone through half of box number 2. That means more than half of the Capuchin Holy Roast Steins, coffee/beer Steins, are gone. I told you if you snooze, you lost. Ladies, you were going to get one for your husband, but you're going to wait until December the 20th. You're not going to get one. You better go get it. You better go order him one today and stuff it full of cigars and coffee, too. We were talking about Hillcrest Creamery today, our little Mennonite-run dairy, which is down the street from Walsden and West. This cream comes out of this bottle. It looks like it's already been whipped. I was joking. I'm like, I'm going to have a splash of coffee with my cream. Yes, much of this is going to return. I would not be surprised, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to think DoorDash for milk. Jeff, you still in there? Jeff will figure this out. You're a smart guy. You're as old as me. Think DoorDash for milk. What are you going to get? We're going to see milk bottles being left on people's doorsteps again? We're going to see little, smaller, regional dairies popping up where people are going to give making milk products a go? And how are they going to get the products to the people that live in the bougie developments? DoorDash. It's got to outfit the cars with some reefer stuff in there, and bammo, the milkman picks the bottles up. Another thing the young people are into, and I think this is, again, just look at the circumstances here. The young people out there, your hipsters and the millennials, are all into recycling. They will happily keep their glass milk jugs. Happily. Get rid of the plastic, get rid of the making them out of paper, put it back into the glass. They will happily get that milk in glass, rinse the glass out, and stick it out on the doorstep. Watch. All of this stuff, I believe, is going to happen, and it's all going to happen because Beelzebub overreached, as they always do.